You know what's crazy? So many people walk around asking, why don't they treat me better? Or why do I always end up in the same kind of relationship? And the truth is, people don't give you what you deserve. They give you what you accept. Now, I'm not saying it's your fault that someone didn't treat you right, but I am saying that you train people how to treat you by what you tolerate, by how quickly you forgive, by how rarely you walk away. Here's the deal. The standards you set aren't just about them, they're about you. When you raise your standards, you change what you allow. And when you change what you allow, you change your whole life. Some of you are showing up like you're auditioning for a role in someone else's life story. Stop auditioning. You're not a side character. You're the lead. And when you own that, the whole dynamic shifts. The right person isn't going to run when you have boundaries. They'll respect you more because of them. Because boundaries don't push people away, they push the wrong people away. So if you're tired of being undervalued, overlooked, or underestimated, don't wait for someone else to fix it. Raise the bar, speak your truth, walk away when you need to. You don't get better by waiting. You get better by choosing differently. Today, we like to think that how people treat us is about them. Their character, their upbringing, their flaws. And yes, those things matter. But here's the hidden truth. Most people don't want to confront how someone treats you isn't just a reflection of who they are. It's a reflection of what you allow. Every time you let disrespect slide, you're unintentionally sending a message. This is okay with me. You may not say it out loud, but your silence, your tolerance, your decision to stay, it speaks volumes. People are constantly taking cues from us on what's acceptable. Think about it. If someone flakes on you last minute and you still rearrange your schedule next time without saying a word, you've just shown them you'll prioritize them no matter what. If someone talks down to you and you pretend it didn't bother you, you're giving them a license to do it again. This isn't about being cold or overly rigid. It's about being conscious. Every time you respond to behavior, you reinforce a standard. The question is, are you reinforcing the standard you actually want? The biggest trap is thinking, they'll change if I'm just patient enough. But patience isn't the same as boundaries. You're not doing anyone favors by shrinking yourself to keep the peace. You're not helping them become a better person by accepting less than you deserve. In fact, you're making it easier for them to never grow. People rise to the level you require, or they don't. And if they don't, that's not your failure. It's just your signal to step away. What makes this principle so hard is that we're often afraid of losing someone, of being alone, of seeming too much. But ask yourself, if someone's love or attention only exists when you lower your standards, is it really love, or is it just manipulation wrapped in convenience? You can't teach someone to respect you with words alone. You teach it with action, with consequence, with the quiet strength of someone who knows their worth more. The moment you start treating yourself like you deserve better, other people get the message loud and clear. So many of us walk into relationships, romantic or otherwise, like we're on trial, like we have to prove we're good enough, smart enough, attractive enough. worthy enough to earn a place in someone else's life. We tweak our behavior, censor our opinions, laugh at things we don't find funny, or stay silent when we want to speak up. Why? Because we're afraid that if we show the full version of ourselves, we'll lose our shot. But here's the truth most people miss. If being yourself costs you a connection, then that connection was never solid to begin with. You were never meant to beg for belonging. You weren't born to mold yourself into someone else's idea of perfect. When you live like you're auditioning, you're always waiting to be picked. And that dynamic, it's exhausting. You're constantly watching for signs of approval, constantly scanning for clues that you're doing enough. But real confidence doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from knowing you don't need to be. That even if someone doesn't pick you, you're still whole. You're still valuable. You're still you. Let's flip the script for a moment. Imagine if instead of asking, "Do they like me?" you asked, "Do I even like them?" That small shift changes everything. Suddenly, you're evaluating instead of auditioning. You're showing up as an equal, not as someone seeking permission to exist in someone else's world. When you truly believe in your worth, your energy says, "I'm not here to impress. I'm here to connect. And if it doesn't feel mutual, I'll walk." That energy is magnetic, not because it's aggressive, but because it's grounded. What's wild is that the more authentically you show up, the more you actually attract the right people. People who are aligned with your values, who don't need you to pretend, who respect you more for being real than for being agreeable. Auditioning might win you short-term approval, but authenticity builds long-term trust. And in a world full of highlight reels and filters, showing up as your true self is more than brave. It's rare. When you stop auditioning, you stop settling. And that changes the game entirely. One of the biggest lies we're taught, especially in love, is that if we set boundaries, we'll push people away. That if we draw a line, they'll leave. So what do? We make excuses. We stay quiet when something feels off. We minimize what we need to avoid rocking the boat. But let me ask you something. What kind of boat are you in? If it capsizes the moment you speak your truth, real connection isn't fragile. It doesn't fall apart because you dared to have a standard. The right people aren't intimidated by your boundaries. They respect them. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks. You're not shutting people out. You're protecting the space where something healthy can grow. You're saying, "I want connection, but I want it to be mutual. I want love, but I want it without disrespect. I want closeness, but not at the expense of my peace." That's not demanding. That's self-respect. And anyone who makes you feel guilty for protecting your energy is showing you they were never really safe to begin with. A person who truly values you doesn't just tolerate your boundaries. They're grateful for them because they create clarity, security, and trust. Here's the truth. The people who walk away because of your boundaries were never going to stay for the right reasons. They were only ever going to stay on their terms, on a version of the relationship where your needs didn't matter as much as theirs. When you draw a line and someone disappears, don't mourn the loss. Celebrate the clarity. You didn't lose someone, you revealed them. And better that now, then years down the road, when you're drained, confused, and resentful from all the times you said yes when you really meant no. What's powerful is that boundaries don't just repel the wrong people, they attract the right ones. Because people with emotional maturity aren't looking for someone to bend over backward. They're looking for someone who's clear, confident, and grounded. When you communicate your limits with love and certainty, you show that you know your value, and that energy, it invites in people who see your worth instead of people who test it. Boundaries aren't barriers to love. They're the framework that makes healthy love possible. Before you can raise your standards in relationships, you have to look inward. Not at what others are doing wrong, but at what you've been accepting and why. The truth is, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we believe we deserve. If deep down you don't truly believe you're worthy of kindness, consistency, and respect, you'll find yourself settling for breadcrumbs and calling it a meal. You'll convince yourself that at least they're trying, or no one's perfect, while ignoring the gnawing feeling that you're being undervalued. The work starts not with demanding more from others, but with expecting more from yourself. Self-respect is the foundation for every standard you set. It's what tells you, I don't have to chase, beg, or shrink to keep someone's attention. When you respect yourself, you become less impressed by empty promises and more aligned with consistent action. You stop letting chemistry blind you to compatibility. You stop mistaking attention for intention, because when you know who you are and what you bring to the table, you stop giving people discounts just to make them stay. The question stops being, will they choose me? And starts becoming, do they treat me the way I've decided I deserve to be treated? And that decision has to come from you, not from a dating coach, not from a friend hyping you up, not from an ex finally realizing your worth. It has to be internal. You have to wake up and say, I'm done watering dead plants. I'm done negotiating my value just to feel loved. I'm done proving myself to people who don't even know how to value what's in front of them. That's not ego, that's clarity. And when you start living from that place, when your standards are rooted in self-worth, not fear, you stop tolerating anything that disturbs your peace. The most beautiful shift happens when you no longer need someone else to validate your standards. You don't need everyone to agree with them. You don't need them to make sense to the person who didn't treat you right. Your standards aren't for convincing, they're for filtering. They're not about being too much. They're about never being too little for yourself again. That shift, that inner decision to stop betraying yourself in the name of connection is what starts attracting people who reflect back the love and respect. Have already decided to give yourself. Walking away isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's not bitterness. It's power. In a world where people often stay too long in situations that drain them, confuse them, or break them down slowly, choosing to walk away is one of the strongest things you can do. It's a declaration, not to the other person, but to yourself, that you will no longer abandon you just to hold on to them. Sometimes we stay because we think walking away means we lost. But staying in something that no longer honors your worth. That's the real loss. You don't prove your strength by how much you can endure. You prove it by how clearly you can choose yourself. There's a quiet kind of dignity in walking away with your self-respect intact, not slamming the door, not making a scene, just calmly, decisively choosing peace over chaos. Some people won't understand it, especially the ones who benefited from your silence, your patience, your endless giving. But that's okay. You don't owe an explanation for protecting your energy. People who truly love you won't need to be shocked into treating you right. And the ones who only realize your value after you leave. That realization was never your responsibility to wait around for. What's often misunderstood is that walking away isn't just something you do when things are bad. It's something you do when things are not enough, when you've outgrown the space you're in, when your needs are being unmet, not because you're too needy, but because the dynamic itself is too small for the person you're becoming. Sometimes the hardest part isn't leaving something toxic. It's walking away from something that's almost right. The relationship that has just enough good moments to keep you stuck, but not enough to let you truly thrive. That takes courage. That takes clarity. That takes strength. Most people are too afraid to develop. But here's what walking away does. It re-centers your power. It reminds you that no matter how much you cared, how long you waited, or how much you tried, your value isn't tied to someone else's ability to see it. It reminds you that peace is not negotiable, that love should not be earned through suffering, and that staying silent in your own life story will never lead to fulfillment. Walking away teaches you that your worth is non-refundable, and you don't have to keep offering it to people who don't know how to hold it. When you choose yourself, you don't just walk away from a situation, you walk back home to your power. We often think change comes from waiting for clarity, for a sign, for someone else to finally treat us the way we hope they will. But real change doesn't come from time passing. It comes from decisions, from the moment you say, this version of my life, this version of love, it's no longer enough. That moment is everything, because the life you're living right now isn't just built on what's happened to you. It's built on what you've chosen to accept, to chase, to settle for, and to believe. And that's the best news, because it means your future isn't out of your hands. It's waiting on your next choice. Every choice you make is either a vote for your self-worth or a compromise against it. Choosing to stay in situations that don't fulfill you, that's shaping your reality. Choosing to speak up instead of swallowing your truth, that's shaping it too. It's not about making perfect choices. No one does. It's about becoming conscious of the ones you're making daily. Are your habits, your relationships, your conversations reinforcing the future you want, or just repeating the past you're trying to grow out of? And here's what people often miss. Little choices carry big consequences. Saying yes when you want to say no. Giving someone one more chance when their pattern has been clear. Telling yourself it's not that bad when your intuition is screaming otherwise. These don't seem huge in the moment, but they compound, they become a pattern, and those patterns create your normal. If you don't consciously disrupt that cycle, it becomes the script you live by, and you wake up wondering how you ended up somewhere you never actually wanted to be. But just as like patterns create the problem, they also hold the key to freedom. When you start choosing from a place of alignment, not fear, everything begins to shift. The way people treat you changes. The kind of energy you attract changes. Even the way you talk to yourself changes. Because every time you choose better for your peace, for your values, for your future, you're rewriting the story. Not by hoping it gets better, but by becoming the kind of person who doesn't settle for less anymore. And that kind of change, it doesn't just improve your life, it transforms it. So here's the truth. No one is coming to raise your standards for you. No one is coming to speak your boundaries, to walk away for you, to decide what kind of love you will or won't accept. That's your job. And that's not a burden, it's your power. You get to decide what kind of life you lead by what you choose today. Not next year, not when someone finally gets it, not when they come back and realize your worth. Today, because the moment you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself, you stop surviving love and start experiencing it the way it was always meant to be, rooted in mutual respect, fueled by truth and aligned with your highest self. So raise the bar, not because you're hard to please, but because you've finally remembered you were never here to beg. You were here to build something beautiful with someone who sees you, values you, and meets you where you already stand. And if that means being alone for a while, then so be it. Because alone with self-respect is always better than together with regret.